always comes back to the same thing. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what position or profession you're in. If you have that, you can be this instrument and you can connect with the divine through it. You can perform karma yoga with the right attitude in anything you do. And so it's almost like it gives some hope that people can get. I don't know about your friends, but I have friends that just get so down because they just don't feel that they're in that where they're supposed to be from a professional or work situation. And this to me might give them a new attitude, a new perspective of how to focus on what's really important, wherever you are. And that's not to say that they shouldn't continue to look for a profession or job that they feel is more conducive to their nature, and the growth of consciousness. But it does give a new perspective and hope for those that may not be able to make changes in their current situation.
Yeah. I know why they are dissatisfied, because we are all in the same soup, so to say. We could feel within ourselves these dissatisfaction coming up, rising from those forces of desire and expectation, and our mind created, and these vital forces of ignorance supported, because we want to have better position, more privileged position, more comfortable position, more being loved position, appreciated position. We want it. Yeah, we are ready to work for it. Even these forces, vital forces, they are ready to work, and this is all that result-oriented drive. Yeah, we want to get the result. We want to get the position. We want to have a certain kind of static or realized, achieved position from which we would do very little or very comfortably doing everything, and everything will be appreciated, whatever. Yeah? But we want to reach to a certain level from which we will do less or do differently, securely. We want security. We want achievement of security, where we will look at this, all this stuff which we are full of. Yeah, we are full of this stuff. It is constantly buzzing there, constantly let us
I think that I was going to say, I think that may be the case in a lot of people, but the people that I've seen over the last 10 or 15 years, they're seekers. They're feeling a hole. They're feeling emptiness. They're looking to be more rightly aligned with their dharma or swadharma, right? And so, yes, there's always going to be that desire for comfort and being able to take care of the family and what have you, but there's this underlying aspiration to get better aligned with themselves, and yet it becomes very difficult to find that, and they get trapped, right? They get trapped with having to dismember the lives that they've created in terms of their level of comfort and money and what have you. But to me, it's the underlying drive for these people is not the desire. They are seeking, they have that aspiration, and they're trying to make that shift, right? And so in the meantime, until things align right, to be able to, and I know because I've gone through the same thing, right? I say this because I've gone through it, and I've had many friends that have gone and is going through it. And so again, what to me this does is just say, look at, think you may not feel as though you're in the right position currently to really fulfill that purpose in your life, whatever, that deeper purpose that you feel. But wherever you are, in any circumstance, there is this opportunity to practice karma yoga that will serve as a connection, right? So it shifts this focus from the outer to the inner, and hopefully slowly any desires that they've are holding on to and clinging to, which is preventing an opening for a new environment, will slowly erode. So it's a little, I think it's different than what you're saying. I think they're both groups of people out there, but these are seekers that are trying to make this shift in life, and
Well,
it's hard if you spent your whole
I,
life building up a certain.
yes, I was referring not to the groups or kind of different types of people, just to our psychology, what is there inside the intestine or inside all the guts, what we have. We have constantly moving, buzzing, something there, which is which is determining our ways of thinking, determining our preferences, our desires, our directions, our concentration, force, everything. It is penetrating, pervading everything. We do not know even how to work freely, really freely, how to make the work, the means for self-discovery. We do not know. This is a secret. This is a very great power to really realize this. It's not so evident, it's not so visible because of this buzzing, and because of this constant interference, unknown to us, not visible to us. It is like it is interwoven into the very substance of our thinking, feeling, and emotions, and everything else. It's like very difficult to distinguish it, to see it as being part of this process. Mm. I'm saying something more psychological rather than trying to distinguish between people. Yeah? It is for all of us. It is within all of us. This constant process. I'm speaking about myself in this case, and noticing this makes you really wonder um, how far it is going. It is all the time determining in the mind this focus for the fruit of action. All the time makes you how to say, unaware of this drive for the realization. Why do we need this realization? This is the actually the desire is coming from ignorance. What is this ignorance about? It's all about ignorance, yeah, and this unawareness of the divine in us, in the process of working. Why we are not aware about it? Because there is ignorance, darkness, and within this half light, twilight, within this darkness, um, we do not we can't act otherwise but wanting to achieve something. Yeah, we want to get out of darkness first of all, but by the means of darkness, the getting out of darkness will be the desire, will be the fruit, will be the realization, the aim, and nothing wrong about it. But it turns to be that which is not wrong turns to be totally misleading way, or very long way, natural way of progressing through desires, through failures, through achievements, through pain, through happiness. All these dualities we will be bouncing at, and building up a new this and suffer again and go through it. We are going through it because there is no other way to go, as it were. But there is another way to go. And Sri Krishna gives this way, or Sri Aurobindo gives this way. But how can we proceed if we do not have the contact, if to come back to people? If people do not have that direct contact or that awareness of what is happening to them, how would they step out of it? How would I step out of it if I am not aware of what is going on? How these forces constantly join and determine my ways of thinking and push me into the direction of the achievement as a result, because this is the only efficient way to get out of it, by the means of these ignorant forces. That means by the desire. There is, you understand how I am packing it. I'm repacking it in a new way because I discovered something. I discovered how these forces join our inner or higher aspirations. This fire of aspiration is not strong enough or bright enough to burn these forces or to remove them. So, or we are not aware totally of them. I can feel how they are looking for entry. They will be creating these entries. They will be creating disasters in our lives to create entries. Why? Because they want to energy from us. They want us to put us down, that we will be their food again and again, as it was always. And by that food, they grow and they become strong and they survive and they live and assert themselves in this life. There is a battle going on for this adhara, for this being to be hijacked by these forces or by the forces of light. So here we have this dilemma. So mm, maybe I was a little bit carried away with all this, but I want to make my thought clear, which is quite difficult to clarify it. The desire. What is the desire? Why Mother speaks of desire, that it is contagious even. She speaks that if somebody around you has a desire, it is contagious for you. You will get it. It's like a disease of some kind, yeah? Because it's this buzzing, it's this constant dissatisfaction. And by the means of ignorance, we have to arrive at knowledge. How could we do this? Only with the desire. Desire is the only proposition, yeah? To drive out, to break through, to come to another level. And we build up all those levels and we think they are real. And they're built by desire. They are not totally real. They are half real. And they are never satisfactory. So, in order not to fall into this trap of the building up the ladder of growth of consciousness within the ignorance, and by the means of desire, uh, Krishna proposes to step out of it altogether and look at it as actually doesn't matter what you do, really doesn't matter. Whatever you do, you will have to be free from this drive of desire, of ignorant force to come out from the ignorance by the means of ignorance. You will not be able to do it. So instead of doing that, better to step away from desire. That means not to focus on the ladder, on achievement of breaking through. You see, he steps away from all of this buzzing and everything. And then you will see something. You will see that nature is doing the work and not you. You will see that you are actually, you don't have to do this breaking through because you are already free. And you can do it differently. You can engage yourself in life by different means. To allow, and this is a beautiful here about psychic, the first one on the 11th page. It is if what is of first importance is not the religious or non-religious character of the work done, but the inner attitude in which it is done. If the attitude is vital, and that's what we are talking about, and not psychic, then one throws oneself out in the work and loses the inner contact. This is what we are doing. We are throwing ourselves into this ignorant flood, and we are there with our force. We are achieving something, realizing something. And then, if it is psychic, the inner contact remains. The force is felt, supporting or doing the work, and the sadhana progresses. So there has to be this totally, and how to bring the psychic light into the activity. Yeah? How to.
Well, you have to make that connection, but again, for those that don't have connection, it seems to me that it begins with aspiration, with the aspiration for that connection. You know, that's where else to start. You know, these attitudes will unfold with aspiration and not before aspiration. So to me, all this in that center comes into aspiration and surrender. You know, I mean, there's a whole sequence, but just first to ignite aspiration within. And sometimes so ignorant that the only thing that we can do to see our way clear of this and to break free is to begin to aspire and then trust that through that aspiration it will grow and unfold. And that's been my personal experience when I've been in situations that just are anxiety and so much unfulfillment, and you trust and you aspire and things shift. I mean, it takes a while, but you know, I think all this comes back. I think most of it, at least for me, Vladimir, comes back to this. You know, so
yes,
it makes it gives a pathway. It gives a pathway for people, you know, this aspiration, and maybe the aspiration needs to be in the center of the wheel or of the day or of the spokes. You know, Agni. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, Mother says interestingly that about aspiration here, I'm just quoting from her, how we could get out of this vital influence, yes, which we are driven by. And she says, you should, how to establish the psychic influence. And he says, how should you do it? She says, you must want it, then aspire. Look at this, it's interesting. You have to want it first, and then you have to aspire. And then each time you do something, and this is important, each time you do something which is contrary to this ideal, you must put it before yourself and put the light upon it and the will for change. Three things. Must put it before yourself and put the light upon it and the will for change. Each time one makes an egoistic movement or does those things which should be not done, one must immediately catch it as though by its tail, as by the tail, and then put it in the presence of one's ideal and one's will to progress, and put the light and consciousness upon it so that it may change. It's a very practical thing.
When I was reading that, it's very practical. When I was reading it this morning, it has strong elements or overlapping elements of this whole mirroring and reflection and shadow, right? That you first have to want to see what's inside, right? Through reflection, accepting that reflection is something inside of you. And then you, by doing that, you find it within, however deep you have to dig, and because it's going to hide in some dark corner. And then shine the light, which we've talked about, shine the light on that aspect. That will then allow it to transform or release. And then that last part that you just read that very last part, which isn't part of, let me just get your quote here. Which one must always catch it like this, prevent it from hiding, catch it and then keep it before the light, and then put the light upon it so that it can change. Well, I mean, that's that. So that's what I was thinking, that this is part of the same principle that we find going on in the mirroring work and in the shadow work. You have to be willing to do it first. You have to want to do it. Otherwise, you're just going to see it as other people's
Right.
issues and problems and not yours. So there has to be that desire for change, right? And then you have to do the work as you have the opportunity, as the opportunity comes through reflection. And I know I'm not saying that this is only mirroring, but as I was reading it, it was like that's exactly what we're doing as we're
Sure.
going through that process. You know, it's one avenue
That's
of doing
Yeah,
it.
that's why we have to work. We have to work and be active in life because it brings us always opportunities to see how we bring this consciousness into life.
Right?
And
Progress.
yeah, and we catch by the tail of these
Yeah.
things and bring them into light. We are here tail catchers. We are catching the tails of all these forces and bringing them into their right position. That's why we are working. It's amazing to think of it. It's like a constant work with oneself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Once we succeed in this way, then that becomes interesting. It becomes possible. It's a totally different attitude towards life, towards uh, desire, towards
yeah.
achievement, position. Everything is changing totally because there are different hierarchies of achievement or progress. Progress is seen differently than from the vital point of view. Vital shows you progress, like you achieve level upon level. You earned money. You made this. You built that. You succeeded here. You are here wanted. You are there wanted, and then you aggrandize yourself. You become big ego. But here it's just a totally different picture. Mm. The progress is seen by
Inner.
yeah, transforming exactly those energies which are behind the work. Through work, we have access to these energies. They will come, and we will have to deal with them in a new way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's very clear. I think that's
Very nice.
very, very, very clear. So, and it becomes a joy, you know. I mean, that becomes the joy of work and activity, as, or at least for me, when I was telling you I went through these 10 years of such intense inner working, right? Everything trying to look for it within me, what's going on. And it became gifts, you know, these problems, this anxiety, these troubles, they became small gifts that were able to make that reflected something within me that I could then work with. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where to start, right? And it became joyous to discover them, right? To cast the light on it, to remove it from the core, get it out of its dark little corner that it's hiding. There is a joy in that work that when you do it. And that to me becomes one of the joys of Karma Yoga. So I don't know. I mean, I love it. This is why I told you I just love this reflection principle, because you learn so much about yourself if you're willing to really do the work, right? And then everything becomes a gift in life. Everything is such a gift to help with inner spiritual progress.
That's
It's
absolutely.
so amazing, you know. It's just
Yeah,
a wonder. It's an awe. I mean, I'm just like, wow, how amazing. You know, I was just like blown away. And it makes all this other stuff that's going on seem so trite, so minimal, so unimportant, right? When you're in this other wave that's going on. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm totally.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's all the changes of these energies and relations within you change your outer environment totally. So, and relations with people, they suddenly don't see any problem of somewhere where there's so many problems because you solve them within. There are no energies which are creating these problems there. You may have some other problems, but not these anymore. There was somebody who was mentioning here in our Karma Yoga, in our Gita class, one couple, he was very stingy and very rich, and all the time he was running for every paisa. He was saving all the money, never giving. And she was, his wife was totally generous, and she never saw in him that stinginess. Everybody knew about him as very stingy, but she didn't see it in him. Because she didn't have anything of the kind. And she loved him dearly and never saw in him this imperfection. Quite interesting.
Yeah, that's how it works. Maybe that's what they mean by the saying, love can be blind. You know, that, why is it that that person couldn't see it? Love is blind. Well, it's not so much love is blind, but there is none of that reflection that's taking place.
Correct.
Because of the person doesn't have it within it. I wonder, anyways, that's a whole personal thing. I won't go into, but I think the other thing, Vladimir, so just because you were on page 11, so I was just looking at my notes on 10 and 11, and this idea of spontaneity in action keeps coming up, and I don't know, I mean, let me just see what you wrote here, but I put spontaneity in action comes from a permanent contact with the psychic, so she must have written that in here. But this is another thing that becomes in the sincerity, right? We talked about the sincerity and what is sincerity, and sincerity is spontaneity, right? True spontaneity, which occurs with this touch of the psychic. And if you can bring that into your activity, right, then again, it's not looking for the desire, it's not looking for a preference for a particular modality, right? It just is. It just is happening. So anyways, I just, I would love to.
There is a beauty of this contact, yeah. There is sincerity and a psychic presence. In this case, is can we imagine our life being so free that even whatever we do, yes, whatever is there to do is done with a total spontaneity. That means we are not really driven by very rigid mental discipline or very rigid plan of doing things, one, check, 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 because there would be something which will be interfering and creating a little bit, from the point of view of the mental structure, a disorder, because you will discover some elements from this spontaneous, sincere contact, some elements which were not expected by the mind and discipline. You will discover the whole kind of depth behind this small element which had to be crossed very fast, yeah, because it's not important for the mind. But you will discover the world behind it, and you will spend your time there. Your time will shift. Time frame will not fit into this flow of the mind, which is chuck, 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 which is doing everything superficial on the surface. You will have to dive deeper. So how to reconcile between these two time frames, which is more psychic and more kind of depth oriented, and more superficial, which has to fulfill a certain program, and then get out of it, yeah, as usually it does, without being involved, truly speaking.
Wow. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's a question.
But it also does away. It also does away with desire, right? Because if you're truly spontaneous, you don't have in mind the end result. You're totally coming from the psychic and in that moment. So to me, that covers at least the first two. But you're right, this concept of two different times, one the psychic and one our external environment of time and form. Maybe that's that's a huge reconciliation, huh?
It's a big challenge for this world, which is
doesn't really have it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we do not have yet society which allows this kind of spontaneity. We are all framed by the mind. Yeah, check, check, check. We are not doing the deeper discovery. We do not see our involvement with the world as a self-discovery, and do not permit such economy where this would be allowed. That's why Mother created Auroville. She thought that there will be a place where people would be able to do it. Yeah? Because in the society outside, you cannot be very spontaneous. There is certain things to be done. Yeah, you are there hired to do certain plan, certain activities, certain framework. So suppose you have that touch or that sincerity or
that spontaneity.
Mm-hmm. How would you reconcile?
But maybe that spontaneity is more of a psychological attitude,
it
right?
Is.
It's not something that has to be imposed from the external, so that it's really acclimating to that psychological.
No, mode. I'm not. I'm
still.
It's about time reconciliation. Of course, it is psychological only, but once you have that psychology of spontaneity, you will be stretching the time differently. Yeah? You will need more time on that element you discovered, and maybe the whole direction may take different or change because you discovered
be more efficient.
More efficient, but it
may actually end up being more efficient, doing away with all these unnecessary processes that you've built up on how to do things and what have you. I don't know. It's interesting. I could see where you're actually ahead of the game, potentially, right? And if nothing else, you're certainly tapping into, you give more of a chance for this, or tapping into this creativity and intuition. So I don't know that there would be, with the right attitude, that there'd necessarily be a hindrance, the spontaneity in terms of time.
Maybe not.
You see what I'm saying?
Maybe it will be.
You could actually.
Yeah. Maybe it will be solved differently, the framework in which we work. If mental framework is giving check, 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 then the psychic time which interferes will ignore those check, check, check and go straight to the efficient and more deeper and more meaningful solution in no time. Yeah. Maybe that time to concentrate on the depth will give more results than check, check, check ways. And it will engage also the person from the depth. The person will be fulfilled, will have meaning in this activity, and in that sense would want to come to it again and again, regardless to whether it is work given to him to do for money or not, because the very interest is within this self-discovery, or motivation is in the discovery of the world as it is in its true sense. Yeah, so through activity. So in that sense, of course, it could have totally different implications. We do not know yet. We have to compare two different processes and see whether the one we offer.
We suspect,
Oh,
we suspect.
right. We suspect.
Well, I don't think there's anybody that's operating on the level of true spontaneity. So we're not going to be able to do a true comparison. But as we move towards that, we could see what happens, what naturally begins to happen. You know.
There is a way to compare. I remember I watched the movie, and that's what struck me. So there were two different teams created within the business environment. One team was very plan-oriented, all market-oriented. We have to do this, very aggressive, very mental. Uh, and other team was looking for the truth. And that lady, she didn't have any solution. And everybody looked at her as an idealist and so on and so forth, and it was all wrong. But she wanted to be true to the product, not to create a product which will be on the market, how to say, taking the market, but it has to be useful for people. It has to be better than usual. It has to be cheaper and better and more economical, biodegradable, and ecological, and so on and so forth, health oriented. She was looking for too many things to be realized in one product. And these people, this check, check, check mentality, they cannot go into it because they're so determined with their results. So these two teams were created, and this team aggressive was always winning, always on the top, always better results by money. So money is the answer. Yeah, you have better money. That means you are successful. But this person was not so successful. But at the end, with her, so to say, concentration on the her topic, and she went through all kind of mistakes and people cheating, all, she finally found her ways to this product, which took the market at the end and was much more. So I'm trying
Wow.
to,
What's the name of that movie?
it is a very
What's the
very,
name of that movie?
I don't remember the name, but I will find for you the movie. It's about a lady who worked in
Yeah,
just in
that would be.
right. Or you remember how happened with this
Yeah,
tooth?
that's.
Yeah, yeah. Or do you remember
Sorry,
toothpaste?
go ahead. I'm just thinking how perfect that movie would be.
Yes, yes. We will watch, because this is the question for us, how we would offer it to the modern world with this particular modality of action or this attitude, because this attitude, on the longer run, it's much more effective. Yes, on the shorter run, because the whole structure is built in the old manner, check, check, check manner. It cannot be so efficient immediately. Yeah? It's like Ayurvedic treatment. It's efficient on the longer run. It's not very efficient on the short run. Yeah, in the short in 3 months, the allopathic medicine will be much more effective. But in within 6 or 1 year, Ayurvedic will be more effective. So similar to this, yeah, we could also warn people that it takes time to build this attitude and to work in this direction. Of course, it's not totally what I'm trying to say, uh, but it is close to it, yeah, because spontaneity has more efficiency in immediate terms. It sees things directly, bypassing many logical links which mind cannot see. Mind cannot see so deep. So mind needs to build up the structure, and through the structure to arrive at some result. And many times these structures are not totally correct. They are artificial, and in themselves are a hindrance for the process. But for the psychic spontaneous view, you can see the very essence of what is to be done, why it is there, what is the meaning of it, and you can go straight to it, bypassing all those structures. So in that sense, of course, intuition itself is a
You know,
solution. Mm.
yeah, keeps reminding me, Vladimir, of one structure that most companies, especially entrepreneurial or companies that are in the lower stages of the growth curve, do, and with having R&D labs. You can call it R&D labs, or sometimes they call them little spin-off ventures, right? Where in order to be creative and intuitive and discover new products and new ways of doing things, they have to actually take the people out of the checklist environment, of the delivery. You need to do this next month, we have to have this ROI, et cetera, et cetera. They spin them off and give them an environment in which they have the luxury of time, of exploration, of pursuing multiple paths, right? And in the end, it's those new inventions, those new discoveries that end up propelling that company to the next level. Otherwise, they're kind of stuck in this, same way of doing things. So it's not a foreign concept. We could liken it to, the corporation being like one large R&D or at least concurrently some sort of, R&D. And it wouldn't be too foreign, and they could understand, at least, on the surface, what it is that's attempting to be done here with this spontaneity and this environment. So
in this process, there are two ends. This is the sword with two ends, which is very interesting. One is to be productive, to be efficient, to be creative, to make things work better. Yeah, so to conquer the market, so to say. And the other is to change human beings, to make them happy, to be participating in this process of self-discovery through activities, which is always ignored, so to say, put into second, or it's kind of never looked into directly, because it is seen, well, the development of human resources only as a professional, like a development, that you will be more and more efficient in that view. So we put the horse, the cart in front of the horse and want to run the show. We have to change this direction. And then when the development of human resources becomes more important, then the market becomes secondary, so to say, and the means for the development of human resources, which is immediately creating much more abundancy in terms of creativity and production and productivity and so on and so forth. So, but the mind wants to possess, mind wants to make.
It's interesting that.
Go ahead.
But it's interesting because our R&D labs are set up very specifically to beat the market, to exceed the market, to offer new products. So you can have both, right? You can have this environment in which the individual is flourishing inner-wise and self-discovery and self-knowledge, while at the same time, propelling the company forward in the marketplace. It's default. It's by default. It's going to happen. If you buy into this self-discovery and spontaneity, bringing forth creativity and new ways of doing things. So, but it's a short-term, near-term profit world. So that becomes an issue. But anyways, we don't have to get off into the work environment. It's just what I'm, most used to, and their mentality.
No, very interesting. What you are saying is really interesting, because what Mother created against even this, because this is still market oriented. It's not human oriented society. It's still market oriented. Yeah. But what Mother created, she created a society where the activities will be conducive to the self-development. Yeah. Then when you build such human resources which are developed, creatively developed in different facets, and they can do this and that and this and many, many things they discovered themselves, the flow of energy, the contact, the psychic presence in activity, then this society becomes much more productive, much more than any other check society, yeah? Because you are saving on time everywhere, wherever you go. You are true to the inner and outer. It is true to others immediately. It is accepted by others, accepted by you. Everybody finds that harmonious, energy coming together, which is creating absolutely new type of society, a new type of productivity. So this kind of supramental vision, where everything is efficiently fitting into everything else, and accepted and multiplied and resonating, is something what these today's world is not yet looking for. They are still looking for efficiency in production, but efficiency in production is only one end. It has to be human development on the other, and if these two come together, then we will have something what we want to do, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the human development by default will result in efficiency.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's what we think.
They will automatically come together. Yeah.
Yeah. And it should be our target. It should be our aim, a human development, human-oriented society rather than market-oriented. We have enough already on the market resources to really start shifting towards human development and progress of consciousness rather than progress of things and technologies, and which will be the result of this human development. So we have to shift the whole, reverse the consciousness, to view our life from the karma yogic perspective in a totally different light, which is impossible now. If you offer this to anybody now to think this way, you need really, it requires reversal of consciousness, But maybe some people are looking for it, and it would be a marvelous opportunity to start thinking in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I would again say, if anybody's most ripe and looking for this, it is the young entrepreneurs and CEOs that are looking for a different way to do things. To me, this is, and they're not burdened by this old way of doing it year after year after year after year. So to me, though, that's why I keep harping on, these groups, and there are associations throughout the U.S. made up of these young entrepreneurials, young CEOs, and beginning to have some contact with them, seeing what they're all about, and involving, in any way possible. To me, that's where the hope is. That's where they're probably most willing to look at and be open to something different. And like I said, not burdened by 20 or 30 or 40 years of doing things the old way. So
yes, you can see it.
But taking them through it first individually. Go ahead.
You can see it in Google, for example. Google, all these new companies which are coming, like YouTube. You can use the resources. That's their resources. Their servers are running for you for free to use. It's totally new. Facebook. Yeah, it's a new structure emerging. Yeah? Free exchange of energy, free exchange of information. They try to keep it. The old world still tries to put everywhere. But it is not working anymore. Just type in and get all the information, get all your books, and it is all ready for you. Take it, have it. This is something which was not even thought.
Wikipedia.
Yeah. We couldn't imagine this
Absolutely.
30 years back. It would be impossible to imagine. They're speaking about free internet all over the world. What is this free internet for all? You know, this person who in American who is now,
Model.
yeah, who puts all the satellites. He wants to create a network. Russia and China want to close themselves against this network. They're afraid to be open to the information. They want to manipulate information. Mm, This is a new world emerging, whether we want it or not. These are new youngsters, as you say, new CEOs who are doing it. Look at this Zuckerberg, who is Facebook. He gave all his possessions, 99% of his income. It's like $500 billion he gave away to charity because his daughter was born. Unbelievable. When you think of it, it's another. It's already emerging, this human-oriented thinking. Yes. Cleaning of the ocean is taking place now.
Yeah.
They created a new huge factory which is moving through the ocean, cleaning all the plastics in China Sea and everywhere in the Pacific Ocean. I think we have a hope, really, to move in that direction.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
All right, we can.
Okay, sir.
Okay, madam.
Miss Seema and Eric, but you know, next week, let me just see here. I got an email. Next week we go up to ODA on Tuesday, but let me just see what time, because we might have to change our Tuesday, August 27th.